Welcome to RegTech Live with Clause Maths. The aim of these sessions is to provide you with a 10-minute live discussion around technology and compliance, speaking with leading industry experts every Thursday lunchtime. Today, I'm joined by my colleague, Anastasia Dokuchaeva, where we'll be learning about Clause Match's experience participating in the FinTech Innovation Lab in New York. Anastasia, for people who don't have the pleasure of already knowing you, please could you tell us a bit about yourself and your role at Clause Match?
Hi, Freddie, and thanks so much for having me today. My name is Anastasia, and I am a head of partnerships in Clause Match. That means I work on strategic product deployments and deliveries across the industry and work with our partner firms in the ecosystem.
Great, thank you. So, Anastasia, we have already worked on innovation programs together here in London, and so I have a good idea of what they entail. However, from what I've heard, one of the key differences from previous programs is that this one that you've recently run was virtual, but not just virtual, you were managing it from a different time zone. What was the journey like from start to finish participating in the innovation program?
Yeah, you're right. It was an exciting project and an exciting piece of work to do. So my experience in the past obviously have been running labs such as Lloyd's lab in London. And those programs are typically very condensed, short versions of a pilot or implementation running between 8 to 12 weeks. And what's really important is to have a plan when you go into it and have a very clear understanding what you want to get out of it. So running a program like this locally and being in the right place at the right time is definitely interesting. But now I just finished a lab in New York City, a 12-week program done completely virtually because of COVID-19. But also it's quite interesting to see that the program still had to happen. It still had to have the same outcomes and results and the planning, but a lot of people were looking at how do we actually address this virtual reality and working remotely. And yes, time was also an interesting factor. I obviously had 6-hour difference between New York and London, but I can imagine the companies that were there from Asia and other parts of the world.
You obviously have been working with lots of mentors and sort of senior executives from different financial institutions. So I guess you were almost a fly on the wall of the latest trends and priorities in the US. Are there any key differences in the US market at the moment compared to the UK with regards to RegTech or technology adoption in general?
Actually, no. I think it's very much the same. I feel that the trends that they're looking at and the challenges in RegTech that organizations are trying to solve are very similar to what I'm seeing here in the UK and in Europe. And more specifically, obviously, from the perspective of Clause Match and what I do, I see an equivalent interest and force of trying to address challenges around regulatory change management and looking at how can we consolidate or look holistically at the regulatory obligations, regulatory changes that are impacting the organizations, and how do you manage them and understand the impact they have on the business, be it policies, be it procedures, be it systems, be it controls, be it people. So in that sense, I think the trends around digital regulations, the trends around machine readable, machine executable rule books, the trends around knowledge graphs and using natural language processing techniques to do analytics and insight around content. All of this are the top trends across. And what's also quite interesting, I typically see where we work with a lot of global financial institutions. So for them, the problem isn't regional or local. It's throughout the organization, wherever they are.
Before I jump into sort of asking you questions around the innovation program, I just have one more question. And this is more because you've got experience working more with US clients. In England, they have, we have the FCA, but in America, there's more than just one regulator. Does that exacerbate the need for regulatory technology, or is there just still the same need? Is there more of a need?
It's a great question. Yes, I believe so. You're right. The complexity of the regulatory ecosystem or framework in the US is incredibly complex and vast, and lots of different regulators. So it is definitely a challenge that regulatory technology can help address. And I think they are really very acutely aware of this and are really pioneering or looking forward and pushing those efforts. At the same time, it's also quite interesting that I find in the US, the legislation is very rules-based, heavily reliant on rules, which are much easier to automate, much easier to implement in organization and to digest, while in the UK, obviously outcome-based and principles-based regulations tend to predominantly create complexities for the organizations here.
That's a really, really interesting insight there. Open to interpretation in the UK, more box ticking in the US, and obviously with AI and NLP, that's kind of what that could be geared towards, helping in a more easy way. So, given your, I guess you participated and mentored on innovation programs, what are some of the key takeaways or insights that you could share with listeners on, I guess, making the most out of those experiences?
So when it comes to participating in a lab and being an organization going through a cohort program, I can't stress enough how important it is to be very good at project management. It's one thing, and it's really hard to get into the program. It takes a lot of effort and resources to apply, to get accepted. But once you are there, the time is very short. You have 10 weeks, and 10 weeks go by really, really quickly. So it's really making sure that you go into this program with a plan that you can articulate and propose to the mentors in your week one, because then you have to hit the ground running, doing and executing that plan to the T. And also, obviously, in the first week, you'll probably be able to get some feedback around the plan and really make sure that it's polished and ready to go. Because I did find that quite a lot of organizations, and also, they're looking for leadership or mentorship from the mentor. What they're really ending up having is losing a lot of time, a lot of valuable time to get to the right place. So that's from the participation. So take your success into your own hands and help the mentors to lead you. When it comes to mentorship itself, obviously, yes, I took part when actually CloseMatch went through Barclays Techstars Accelerator back in 2014. I was the mentor of that program. It was really interesting as a mentor for me to see the level of maturity that organizations are when they come into the lab, and the type of expertise that they are required. So obviously, as a mentor, what I want to give back on my expertise or what I'm capable of, and if I can teach them, I'm definitely happy to share, but also give them access to my network, and my network would be a specific area of focus as well, right? But as a mentor, you might not always be the right person for the company you're mentoring, but being able to share the skill sets that might be required is important. So for me, at that time, I was business development, and I actually mentored an organization to do sales pitch and sales decks, and how do you do prospecting, and how do you hold the meeting and structure the agenda of that meeting. So it's really interesting and surprising the type of areas that you might be asked to mentor on.
So I'm aware that we're kind of close to running over time, but I don't think I mean, I want to still ask one more question, so I don't think that really matters. So I think what I think would be really helpful for people listening is if they're thinking about being participating in an innovation program or mentoring, what is the value in doing that?
Well, it's a great question. And since you started this meeting saying that we actually took part in the lab together, what did you find the value to be?
Okay, yeah. Okay, sure. So I think it really depends on the type of the objective of the program. So if the program is led in an industry which lacks innovation, Lloyd's Lab. So we did an innovation program through the Lloyd's market, and I think one of the benefits for the host is that they're driving innovation for all of their members. Ultimately, for people that participate in innovation programs, it's going to help them, I guess, hone their product market fit, be able to improve their networking, and then be able to create maybe a softer landing for them to be able to, I guess, sell into that industry. I don't know what your views are.
I echo, and I am of a similar opinion to it. And it's just a couple of things to add. I also find the trends are about job creation. So creating a lab to stimulate growth of innovative new businesses and job creation as a result of it. Also, obviously, investment opportunities and the labs that are focusing on seed stage or Series A stage companies, and obviously they're looking for the next great idea that would really revolutionize the industry or the sector, and those are all really amazing initiatives to have, and we definitely need to continue having them. I'm a big supporter of those programs.
Thank you again, Anastasia. It was really nice to have this catch up, because I know you're always so busy, so we never find time to have this catch up. It's been really, really insightful, and I think everyone listening will also find it very helpful.
Likewise, and maybe next time we'll do this together in the same room.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully one day. Thank you also to everyone who listened, and hopefully you can listen in next time. Cheers.